In a previous video, I'll link it right here, go ahead and click on it and watch it if you haven't seen it already. I break down what I think is a really important full body movement, but I don't go into depth of why I find it so important. In essence, this full body movement is one of the safest ways to get from standing up to down to the ground and back up again. There's a couple ways you can do that, right? You can imagine some people just really bend the knees. This is a very popular way. Get their hands to the ground, they smash their knees, and then they drop to their hips, or drop to their knees and drop to their hips. Not only does that not break down into very functional movements that you should be doing throughout the day, but also if you do it enough times, that's enough stress in your back and knees that there is a safer way to do that. And the best way is just to squat it out with a good hinge, push the hips back, soft knee bend, get those hands to the ground. Now you need some amount of upper body strength, lower body mobility, good sound mechanics, tight core, you kick your leg through and you drop to your hips. This way of getting to the ground and getting back up, squeeze the glutes, is just all around safer. You could do it multiple times, but it really tests your core. Again, lower body strength and mobility, and then that shoulder stability. So even that way is pretty advanced. So that's why I'm making this video. I'm just gonna show you 6 exercises that break this movement, this full body movement, getting up, hinging, walking it forward, dropping to your hips, and standing back up. I'm just gonna break that full body movement into 6 exercises so you can practice those movements, work on them, progress them, and come back and make sure that you know and you feel confident and safe getting up and down from the ground. So let's get started. The first exercise you can imagine is just that hinge. Actually a lot harder or more complicated if you haven't worked on this movement mechanics than you'd think. All it is the idea of getting your chest forward without rounding your back. So a hinge comes from the pelvis, bending over comes from your back. I want a hinge. The only way you can do this, you can't do it with your knees locked out, right? That's a bend. You have to have soft knees so that way those hamstrings can stretch and you can get a nice hinge. Really feel free to overemphasize that hips tracking back motion. In your head, think soft knee, hips back. Soft knee, hips back. Really feel those hips tracking back. You can also use the external cue of like a wall or something. Stand a foot away from it. Try to touch your butt to the wall. Touch your butt to the wall. If your chest is going forward, you're gonna fall forward. Something has to go back. Soft knees, hips back. It's the only way you can lower yourself safely with those legs. So that's the first movement, a Romanian deadlift. Give me like 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps. Soft knee bend, squeeze the glute and hamstrings. I don't want your lower back to be used for this. I'm not looking for quads to be used for this. I really want your glutes and hamstrings. So push those hips back, keep a tight core, squeeze the abs, don't really extend from the back, squeeze the glute and hamstrings. So that's the first exercise. The second exercise is a dynamic plank. I'm going to show you the hardest version of this first, then I'll show you the regressive and how you can progress to be able to do this motion. But part of getting up and down from the ground safely is not, I can do that on a mat because it's so cushioned. Oh, that's one thing I could touch on. I'll link these mats in the description of the video. To do these exercises, having that 1/2 inch thickness mat or even more, so important. This might be 1 inch, so nice. So you haven't learned yet how to safely get down to the ground. That's why you're watching this video, so you can progress all these exercises to be able to do that consistently and confidently. So don't learn these movements on tile or hardwood. Have a nice thick mat. So when you do free fall to that knee once in a while, it's not going to aggravate that kneecap. So Anyways, the first exercise is second exercise is the dynamic plank. Start out on your knees, press your feet in the ground, press your arms in, tight core, and we're just trying to kick the leg through, kick the leg through, kick the leg through. Again, what this is progressing to is the crouching down, hands down, kicking the leg through and dropping to your glutes, rather than smashing on your knees the whole time. So again, we're in our tight core, kick the legs through, kick the legs through. Go like 5 to 8 reps each side. If you can do that, great. You're probably ready for the other exercises. If not, start a little elevated. Tight core, kick the legs through, kick the legs through. Walk those feet back. Give me a nice long, try to get your body weight over those hands. We're just working on that shoulder stability, upper body strength, and then that core activity. What I don't want is you losing your abs. Again, have someone watch. Make sure you're not dropping that pelvis into an anterior pelvic tilt. You can always go lower. This is my hands on the couch. If you have really nice mats, you can fold up one like these and stack them and just work your way lower and lower until all of a sudden you can get this. So now let's go to the next section, which is dropping into this. So tight core, drop into this. This is a mobility, a hip mobility position that I want you to test. This is level 1. I mean, 90, 90, 90. This is the third exercise, right? It's called 90, 90, 90, and it's just a mobility activation exercise. So this might be stage 1, is just trying to be able to sit up in this position without your hips cramping up. Just having the flexibility and mobility to be in this position. When I started this probably 3 years ago, I was on my elbow. That's all I could do. Now I can barely fathom not being able to be in this position. It's hard to remember that I used to be so tight in the hips that I had to be lunged over like this. So if you can be here, you're already in a better spot than I was. But now we're going to amp it up for those of you who can be in this position. You're going to try to, and this is going to seem impossible at first, lift the knee and the foot at the exact same time. This is easy. I can lift the knee all day. But try to lift the knee and the foot and kick back. Lift the knee and the foot and kick back. If at first you're like, there's no way, my foot is pinned to the ground, lunge over, get all the way down to one elbow, and now your hip has a lot more room for that kick. So we're trying to shut off that from being too overactive, and at the same time trying to activate our glutes and glute med to be able to kick back, right? Now, if you can do that sitting up, great. And super advanced, lift the knee, lift the foot, touch our heels together, kick back, touch our heels together. So that's our third exercise, 90-90. Switch sides, find out which side's tighter, less mobile. Lift up, kick back, lift up, kick back. See, I still have to really counter over. You should be able to have that hip mobility to lift up and kick back and stay pretty upright, dropping that pelvic floor, drop it down, tight core. And then that's the third movement. The fourth and fifth movement are just lower body. Fourth, fifth, and sixth we're gonna work our way down. So you're now dropped to this. Now I just want you to make sure you have the ab strength, which is just a crunch or a sit-up. You're laying on your back. How do you get up? Some people roll over to their side and have to do this. It's not very efficient, it's not very performative, but most important, can kind of smash that shoulder. So why not have the ab strength and work on that? So if you at first are not, you're like, there's no way I'm just gonna freely do a full sit-up or crunch, that's fine. Put one full arm on, the other half arm, and just give me these type of crunches. Down that side oblique, 10 on one side, 10 on the other. It's a great starter exercise. I even grab this mat, the side of the mat, and kind of pull myself up. But use your abs for it. Don't just round the neck, round the spine. and dig that elbow in. Squeeze your core. Make those abs stronger until you can sit up freely. The fifth exercise, you're going to start out on your back. Tight core. Smash those abs or that lower back on the ground by squeezing your abs. Go long lever. Bend those knees up just a little bit. Squeeze your abs, lift the hips, and wiggle the toes. This should be all hamstring, back of the thigh. I don't want your calves taking over. I don't want your lower back taking over. So and I definitely don't want your quads. That means you're trying to push the legs this way to get up. You're trying to dig your feet that way. I want you to dig those heels back and down, back and down. That way we can get those hamstrings involved. This is just a strengthening activation exercise so those hamstrings can take you through this whole movement safely and strongly. Very important, commonly underworked muscle. Squeeze those hamstrings, wiggle the toes back. Go till they're almost going to cramp up if that's in the 10 to 15 reps of the ankles moving. If you can find your hamstrings, squeeze them, and they don't get fried up for any amount of time, 10, 15, 20 reps, then your hamstrings are strong and you don't need to worry about it. It's good to maintain that, but you don't need to spend excessive time. Your time will be well spent elsewhere. The next exercise, another underutilized muscle, is those glute max. So we need our hamstrings and glute max to stand us back up. If they're not active in their primary movement, knee flexion and hip extension, they're not going to help when you try to stand up. So let's do our sixth and last exercise. Feet are going to be closer to your body, out to the side. Smash the lower back, tight core. Drive up, squeeze the glutes. Drive up, squeeze the glutes. I want your glutes, which is your butt, to squeeze. Tight core. I'm not arching and leaning back. Again, no lower back, no quads, just glute max. If you struggled with any of those exercises or needed more of a walkthrough, or you just like those exercises, all 6 of them, and want a bunch more fun, powerful movements that will translate to everyday moving, everyday performance, I have a whole program that essentially starts out like this. Follow along. We're going to do the reps together. We're going to count it out, but a lot of exercises. It takes 35 minutes to get through them all. Very important, but starts out at level 1 with just a yoga mat, and then it's phasic. We're going to improve week to week, month to month for 4 months. It's about 5 phases long. So you can go to my website and try that program, or just keep watching these videos, progress those exercises. They're so helpful. You're going to find them translate to a bunch of other movements, especially the movement of getting down to the ground safely. Thanks for watching. Stay active, stay consistent.